Hey, it's Total Schmidt Show Season 3. Let's do this. Total Schmidt Show Season 3 is upon us. Tune in every week. I talk to entertainers from all over the world. Singers, dancers, comics, musicians, drummers, blah, blah, blah. All kinds. Techs, even some cruise directors. Most of the entertainers I talk to work on cruise ships. If you ever wanted to know what entertainers do, how they get through their day, any of the behind-the-scenes stuff about entertaining, we'll talk about that stuff here, as well as we'll delve into some of the entertainers and some of their works, some of their albums coming up, some of the things they've done in the past, things you can look forward to in the future. All that stuff you can catch here on Total Schmidt Show. But either way, get yourself a pizza, a beer, some bourbon, light up a cigar, or some sort of joint, or whatever type of crutch or vice you need to get through the evening, and sit back and enjoy whatever it is I put together this week on Schmidt Show. You're welcome. Hey, it's Total Schmidt Show Season 3. Today we have Evan Jay Newman on the show, a singer-performer I worked with on Celebrity. Before we get to that, we'll get there in a second. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what's going on in Los Angeles, California, Southern California. Do me a favor, just Google Donate to LA Wildfires and pick any one charity, anyone. There's all kinds of stuff there. There's Project Hope. There's all kinds of stuff. I went with the LA food banks to make sure people are getting food. If you live in the Los Angeles area, you can actually just bring some food to a fire department to help out the firemen to get them some food. I guess they're asking for things like energy bars, Red Bull, stuff like that. Anything you can do to help out would be helpful to all those involved. Huge thank you to those. And mad respect for those that are fighting the fires and out there doing the best they can. God bless you. I wish you the best. And I wish the best and safety to everyone who lives in California that's dealing with this horrible, tragic, just with all of it. I know my daughters got evacuated a few days ago. There's other people that are much far worse off than I am. It's a very scary time in LA, and as I'm recording this now, it's going to get more difficult this week as the winds pick back up later this week, back to 30 to 50 miles an hour. So if you can do anything to help anyone, just to kick in a little bit, man, just Google, like that's what I did, Google LA wildfires, or Google Donate to LA Wildfires. And there's dozens of different charities that you can give money to just to help out. The fire department, all kinds of stuff, hospitals, food banks, whatever you can would really appreciated. This is a second episode of Season 3. Evan Jay Newman is on. I saw his solo show when I worked with him on Celebrity Constellation. We did the crossing together. It's a great podcast, man. He's a really talented singer, performer, showman. He put on a great show. It was only the fourth time he had done the whole show himself. It was really impressive to watch. We talked a lot about auditioning, your mindset when you're auditioning, the things that go through your head when you're performing, preparing to perform. We spent a lot of time talking about food imports as well, because I love food imports, and then we got off into a tangent. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with my friend Evan Jay Newman. And that's why I was so happy with Celebrity. I mean, man, I got a ton of Celebrity next year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So, and I'm like, that's all I'm happy here. You know what I mean? I'm real happy here. And one of the things about Celebrity that I'm noticing the most, which is why I love doing these podcasts, especially on here, they do a really great job with entertainment, man. I mean, they do not only that, but the shows. I mean, something like this is a crossing, like your matinee, which we'll get to, in a few minutes. But we do a really good job. They do a great job, I think, with entertainment on the crossing, man. Everybody's like, Ernest is great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I saw his show, I was blown away. It's like, man, that's great.
Yeah, see, are we recording already? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, I
always just start recording and start talking, and I'll cut the stuff at the beginning that I don't want in here.
Cool, yeah, of course. No, I just wasn't
sure. But moving forward, let's try not to cut shit. Back on my editing.
Yeah. No, Ernest, I met Ernest when he was still acting. I went to visit him on The Allure of the Seas over with Royal, and he was playing Billy Flynn in Chicago. He was the last cast there. So I had only known him as a performer. Even when I was vocal directing for Celebrity back in 2015, he was performing with Azamara. So, I don't know, it was maybe a year ago, we ended up on a ship, and he showed up as a cruise director. It blew my mind. I had no idea that he was even doing it, but he's great.
Oh,
and
his
show
was great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was really great. It's, you know what? It's that old. This is why I like. It's the showman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's almost like the old school back in the 40s and the 50s when you did a show at a club somewhere. You were a song and dance man.
Yeah.
You know, you were funny and you danced and you sang a song. Look at those old movies from the 50s and the 60s. You know, look at guys like Dean Martin that diversified, you know, a lot of what they did. Fred Astaire, you know what I mean? They learned to, and even more so in the clubs, when you did a show, man, back then they were doing shows all day. You know, they would do like 5 shows a day or matinee shows and nighttime shows. So you had to get the crowd.
Yeah.
And you had to get them on every level. So when I see a show like Ernest's show, dude, he was funny, first of all. He had a lot of great jokes in there. And then the songs blew me away, and the way it was laid out was phenomenal. Your show was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
I was blown away when you told me it was only the 4th time you've done it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's ridiculous. It was fantastic.
Thank you. And I actually made some changes for this time around because you've been on with us for the whole cruise, yeah?
I got on in Barcelona.
In Barcelona. Okay, yeah. So usually when I do the solo show, I do Hey There Lonely Girl, and I do that whole monologue.
The song's been stuck in my head the whole week, by the way.
Oh, sorry or you're welcome?
Oh, well, both. Actually. It's a great song, and you nailed it, but every once in a while I'm like, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah, I have one of those in Illyria, which they canceled last night. There's a song that every time I even think about the show, it's stuck in my head for 45 minutes. It's awful. Yeah. No, it's a great show. I just it's one of those that drives you nuts. Yeah. But so I normally in the when I'm doing one solo show, I'll do Hey There Lonely Girl, and I'll take Jazzman from You Got a Friend. But because they've already heard that this cruise, I had to slot in some extra stuff.
Yeah.
So it was cool to kind of do that on the fly. But yeah, I've only done it 4 times. Hopefully there's more to come.
Yeah, you know, another thing that's really, really impressed me with all of you guys is that because of the crossing, because of the situation, especially with Adam and Tabitha here, you guys rearranged your sets. Like you had to rearrange some songs. The Carole King thing was a big issue all week.
Oh my God!
You had to work around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which. I mean, listen, it's Carole King. She wrote for so many hits. Like, there's going to be a little bit of crossover, but this is the first time that there's been that much crossover, especially once Tabitha came on. She's like, I also do Carole King.
Of course she does. Yeah. You know, why wouldn't she? You know what I mean?
But you know what? It fed into you being able to make a joke of it up at Liars Club.
Yeah, that worked, right?
I dug that
into the ground. That was funny.
Great. I kind of stole that from you a little bit for my solo show.
That's fine. No, it was great. It was why shouldn't you? Yeah, and you should.
Yeah.
And the crowd got it. They loved it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even when we first got on board, the cast was like, "Oh no, we have a Carole King tribute because in their Broadway cabaret they've got their Carole King section."
Right.
Broadway cabaret is funny though for me because having both been a performer but also been a music director, they pretty much in Broadway cabaret just do my career. It's like a tribute to my career.
Yeah, right.
Weird.
Oh,
so they got Les Mis, they got Mamma Mia, they got Jersey Boys. It's like my entire career.
Yeah, dude, you've done a lot, dude. Dude, you got a ridiculous range.
Thank you.
Like, your range is just monstrous. It's really, I mean, besides I was blown away with the piano playing and everything else, I love that. I just love real artists and entertainers that are really are diversified. You know what I mean? You do so many different things. But as far as your vocal range, man, that's ridiculous. That's insane.
Well, I really appreciate that. It was a lot of training. Like, honestly, I talk about how I auditioned for Jersey Boys for 10 years, and while I was doing that, I was also in voice lessons with this woman, Katie Agresta, who trained all of the Frankies in Jersey Boys history and trained a lot of the Four Seasons. She's Bon Jovi's vocal coach. She works with Sting, Cyndi Lauper. So like, she really helped with that. I obviously, you've got to have the natural range a little bit.
Sure.
But technique-wise and sustainability, like, couldn't have done it without Katie Agresta.
Right. Well, I don't think people know what goes into the working on a vocal range.
Oh, no.
Like, as far as, I'm mesmerized by singers, because even from my point of view, I'm very loud and energetic. I learned this early on with my ex-wife was in theater. So she taught me how to come from my diaphragm, how to breathe the right way on stage. Because I'm very loud and heavy on my chords. So if I do, like in a heavy week, I'll do 7 to 10 shows. By the 7th show, my throat is shot. I'm like, so if I don't handle the oxygen the right way. And then I learned it more by watching singers and realizing, man, if a singer's got to sing this many shows all week long, man, you got to know how to work those chords and breathe the right way.
Yeah, well, and it's a muscle, right?
Yeah.
With you always do a vocal warm up and should do a vocal cool down. I'll be honest, I get lazy with it after a show and don't always. When I was doing Jersey Boys, I would always do a vocal cool down. But it's like you stretch before your workout. You do some active dynamic stretching before a workout, and then static stretching after. It's exactly the same, It's funny though that you mentioned that, after doing 7 shows of your sets or however many a week, your voice is feeling it. That happens a lot in the fitness community. I dated a personal trainer who did like group fitness classes a lot. She was like, yeah, we should start bringing somebody in to train us because we're just talking all day.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, you
Gosh,
don't realize.
Yeah, and that's all day long. That's how many, say, 6 classes.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
And you're shouting over whatever music.
Oh,
and
God.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So like it really is. It's a muscle, and you don't if you're not really in a performance space, you don't think about that your voice is
right,
needs to be trained, needs to be maintained
and taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. Well, look at the older you get, you don't think, when you're 18, 19 and you're a rock star or whatever, you don't think about singing that song 25 years down the road.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like I'm a huge Rush fan. I love Geddy Lee, and I watched them. And even some of the guys you watch now, there's guys that struggle vocally on tour. The older you get, it's just hard to hit some of those notes. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
well, and you got to bring down those keys, but also,
Yeah.
I mean, the stamina, it just goes away. It's really hard to keep up. Even me, like 38 years old, I'm already like, you saw me up there. I was out of breath for most of my show.
There's a couple, because I was so close. There were a couple moments where you were like, I saw you were like, I've told the story before. I saw Casey and the Sunshine Band on a ship once, and he came out, and he's in his 70s, and he wore jet black dyed hair and wore a lavalier, but danced with the dancers the whole show.
Oh wow.
And in between, you could hear him, but he owned it and goes, "Hey guys, I'm 72. I'm doing the best I can up here."
Yeah.
But I gave him so much credit because he could have just sat behind a keyboard and mailed it in. But he put on a great show and sounded great.
Yeah.
It really sounded fantastic.
See, the funny thing for me is like, if I could just take 10 to 15 seconds to catch my breath, I'd catch it back immediately.
Right.
The problem is after the song, you have to then talk to the audience. You have no
Yeah,
time to actually get your bearings.
Yeah, it could be like a bad, you do a song and there's 30 seconds of silence. Or even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The crowd's like,
Well, that's my favorite thing of when I work with the trio is because, with You've Got a Friend, I don't do a lot of talking in the show.
That's great. Yeah.
So, like, even when we finish a song like Chains and I need a few seconds to just recalibrate my breath, Peter's the one talking. I'm just getting a sip of water and I'm back to normal.
That's a smart move. Did you guys package that as a guest entertainer show?
You've Got a Friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a producer back in New York who put the show together and brought us together. I've been doing it for I've been doing different versions of it. It's sort of evolved. But Peter's relatively new. Peter's been with it for about 3 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he crushes it, dude.
Oh, he's
good.
great, right? He's incredible. Yeah. And honestly, a godsend of a human, too. He's really been a rock for us, this contract.
Right.
And then, Terrence and I met last year. But yeah, our friend DJ and Michael, they put us together.
Yeah, you. I mentioned, you said, I'm sorry, Peter crushes it, and he said he's only been here 3 months.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think a lot of people don't understand. One of the reasons I started doing the podcast is you guys don't just walk in here off the street to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, they really, for cruise entertainment, they find really the best people, really quality, talented people to come in here and do shows.
Yeah, and one of the great things about Peter, like talent aside, personality aside, is that he has done ships before.
Right.
I mean, this is such a very special kind of beast.
Right.
You have to have a certain kind of temperament for it. I mean, even just these sea days. What are we on? Sea day 7.
10, yeah. This is the hardest run for me. It's always these 10 sea days in a row.
Well, and I've never experienced it this rocky. Like I've done crossings before, but this is the most consistently rocky I've had.
I've had it. It's worse on the West Coast.
Oh God,
I've done crossings in the Pacific, which they're brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're brutal. They're where they have bags in all the elevators, like pouches of.
Oh yeah.
Puke bags everywhere or whatever for the guests, and the guests aren't anywhere. Sometimes you walk around, the ship's empty, and it's way more rockier than this is. Like
it's almost like deadheading it.
Yeah, no, it is exactly like that. Yeah, it is. So
I've only done this crossing. I've only done the Atlantic one way or the other. I've done Miami to Barcelona. I've done Lisbon to Miami, but never done the Pacific.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets pretty rocky and windy over there. The Hawaii thing used to get me a lot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really get seasick, but I've been describing it as like an out of body experience. Like I'm not entirely here just because I'm consistently rocking. So I don't feel ill. I just don't feel human.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, you're like floating.
Yeah,
that's why a lot of times when you're in port, you just get off to walk around. Just get your feet on land.
I do have ports like that where I'm like, I probably won't even eat. I'm just going to get off the ship for about an hour, walk, and then go back. take a nap.
I do the hiking thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do. There's that app, All Trails. I just started using.
Yeah, it's great. Right?
It's dynamite, man. It's so cool because you can then pick out a route. And
that's really good for the Alaska run.
I was just going to say that's where I started. Skagway.
Oh, yeah.
I did. Well, I've done the Deweys and then or Lower Dewey.
I did Lower Dewey. I haven't done Upper.
I didn't know Upper, but I didn't need it. And I did Lower, not knowing what I was getting into, and not wearing the right shoes.
Oh yeah,
it really kicked my ass. But the last time I did half a Lower, but the weather was so bad, and I was alone. I was honestly, I'm like, I don't think I should go up there alone.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's fair.
And I had to get back to the ship, and also, and there's no signal up there. You know what I mean? So I pushed out, but it was already shit. It was just a week ago.
Oh,
right before this cruise, yeah. Or
I didn't realize
right
you were just
before Vegas.
Oh.
I was on the last week of Alaska. In fact, next year they changed it. They started too early and they stayed too late.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that they did it was because of COVID. COVID really screwed Skagway, especially.
Oh yeah.
And some of these other towns.
I mean, that's their entire industry.
They almost went bankrupt as a whole city. I remember read an article about it. Skagway almost had to close up. I mean, that's all summer they're full of tourists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But next year they're starting later and cutting earlier because it was snowing and windy when I was in Skagway. The weather was bad.
See, for me that's ideal. I love the snow.
Oh, and I like hiking in it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, come from Chicago, so I go, let's go, put on some warm clothes and go walk through the hills. It'll be great. But there was no one else up there. That was the only thing. Was like, I don't think I should be up here alone.
Did you do any hikes in Juneau?
No.
There's some gorgeous hikes.
I can't wait to do it next year. You know what? I got Alaska all summer next year. So, and
take me with you.
and I have longer. Here's the thing with Alaska. Sometimes is, especially if you're ever on that Bliss or some of those ships, it's a short port.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of there by 1 or 2. So then I got stuff to do, and I don't really have enough time. But next year I'm going to plan. Now I plan those ports around my hikes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll look at the cruise and go, well, I'll get off in Juneau and do this hike, and I'll get off here and do that hike. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it a lot of fun, man.
It's sort of been a struggle for me because like I've started to find my spots.
Yeah.
You know, I've done the Alaska run so many times. So you know, there's this taco truck in Skagway that I really love.
And wait, in Skagway?
Yeah, it's just this random like all the crew members go there. It's like a couple blocks up the main street to the left, and yeah, it's like a taco truck across. They've now opened, I think, like an Asian street food.
Wait, this is Juneau or Skagway?
Oh, this is Skagway.
Okay.
This is Skagway, yeah.
I've never been there. I know the little street thing in Juneau where they have a taco. Those tacos are great.
Oh, yeah, the outdoor market. They expanded that this season.
Yeah,
It got so much bigger.
And there's like a little beer garden. And they do, I think, a crepe thing or whatever.
They have a crepe thing. They used to have a s'mores stand, but they closed that down.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I think that was a victim of the pandemic, but I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah,
I've never seen that in Skagway. Where's that in Skagway?
It's just a couple blocks up the main street, like where the train station is, and then I think if you just turn to the left, you should see it a couple blocks down.
Go past the airport, like closer to the water, or into the city more. You know where the grocery store is over there? The one grocery store they have.
No, maybe
they have one grocery store over there. I'll end up there because I'll do the hike, and then if I can't hike, what I will do is walk through Skagway, all the streets.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I just walked there.
Dude, I'll find it next time. I love street food, man. That kills me.
I mean, that's great, but then also there's Ketchikan. You got Jellyfish Donuts, and she just opened a location in Juneau,
really
as well. Yeah, they've did that this season, brand new. So
there's a dumpling shop in Russian dumplings. In
yes,
Ketchikan.
I haven't done those yet.
Dude, they're good. You know what else is there, which is ironically weird? I don't know if it's still there. And I love this. I love poke. Like poke.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little poke stand behind the bar next to the pizza. You ever go to the pizza place?
I've walked by it, but I've never been.
Behind the bar, there's a little bitty. It's like a street parking lot thing, which is only open for a few hours.
Oh wow!
But it's phenomenal poke.
I'll have to check that out next time.
Yeah.
Well, then of course there's Skagway Brewing Company. There's also Klondike Brewing.
Great,
you know, and if in Ketchikan, you got to check out Bawden Street Brewing Company.
Okay.
It's a lot of craft beers and. Last time that we were there, we were talking with the guys like for an hour just about the new stuff that they were trying out. They're always trying to find new stuff.
Right.
So yeah, definitely if you're a beer drinker in Ketchikan, Bawden Street Brewing Company.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, right on. We did now. I'll be there all summer next year. I don't know what. Now you guys are done after this cruise.
Yeah, we get off in Tampa, and then.
Do the three of you have another gig?
Not really sure what's next. I think Peter's going to go back to London, audition there. Terrence and I will be auditioning in New York.
Right.
And I'm hoping to get more bookings with my solo show.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a great journey with You've Got a Friend. And and it's feeling like it's around that time. I mean, I'll still do You've Got a Friend, but I'm really hoping to move on to do more stuff as a soloist.
Well, I meet tons of guest entertainers that's what they did.
Yeah.
You know, they started from the show band, the house, the playlist, whatever, and eventually developed their own guest entertainer show like yours, and then moved into doing more guest entertainer work and not doing any more stuff.
The thing with You've Got a Friend is interesting because it's the first guest entertainer gig I've ever had, and so in my head, like there always had to be a big theme, like we're covering a big artist, and then I started finally seeing some solo shows where people were just like, no, this is me as a soloist, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life. We're going to sing some songs. This is going to be the show. I think the first one was Heather Sullivan, if you've ever worked with her.
No.
She was the first one that I saw that just was Heather being Heather, and I didn't even realize that you could do that. You could just pitch yourself as, this is me and I'm doing a show now. And so that was a game changer for me. That's when I was like, okay, I can do a solo show.
Yeah.
Because I had started to build a Frankie Valli one.
Right. Like a tribute type thing?
Yeah, it was all Frankie Valli. I was going deep into the catalog. I was rearranging some of it. I pulled a song off of his concept, off of the Four Seasons concept album that didn't do particularly well. But then I was like, this is so hard to sing. I'm going to be miserable. Like, why would I do this to myself? Have you ever worked with Travis Clower?
No.
Okay, he's brilliant. He was a long-running Frankie. He does a Frankie tribute, and somehow it sounds effortless. Like, I know it's not because I know what it takes.
Right.
But I don't know how he does it. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I'd have to live like a hermit. But he's very happy, and he's incredibly talented, and God bless him, he can keep the Frankie Valli tribute. I'll do what I'm doing.
Do your own thing.
Yeah.
Well, you get. I know a lot of. You know Todd Adamson?
No.
Todd's. He's done a lot of Broadway. He's got an amazing, powerful voice, and he's a funny dude. And he does a solo show at Princess. He's a Princess guy.
Oh, nice.
And I worked with him, and he also does a couple of podcasts. He's always doing something else. He's a really great guy. But I saw him, and he does that whole. And he's been Beast. He's done that, so he's got some of that. He does little chunks from all of the plays he did, a couple of different songs, a couple of things here and there.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is a phenomenal show. But you're going to find what you're probably going to get to once you're the one you did, again, which was amazing. I'm really blown away. That's only the fourth time you've done it, bro.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Once you get to some guys, what they'll do is they'll do that, and then they'll have they'll have more than one show. So,
I have a second show.
Yeah, that's when it's going to get, like, that's when you're more, especially for these crossings. There's a guy, I can never remember this guy's name, but he does his own show, then he does a Neil Diamond tribute. And he crushes the Neil Diamond thing. So he's got 3 shows he does throughout the cruise, so they can use him 6 times technically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that'll give you more, that's when you'll start to get more, once you get into it and you have that, you'll be more attractive to them, because that's where, for the line, that's what works for them, is once they get you on the line, if they can have you do, that's why I have a lot of material. Like I could do 5 different shows if I had to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
James Humphreys is that way. He was on board, if you've ever worked with him. He was on board with us a few cruises ago now. Incredibly talented, and has done so many shows and different versions of swapping things in and out that now like really can build any shows he wants.
Yeah.
Because he's got such a deep catalog.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, well, you're going to find all that. You'll have all that stuff too, because you got because of the background.
Yeah. There's a lot that I can dig from. It's really just about figuring out the pacing, right? Nobody wants a show of all ballads, and I'll be honest, one of the hardest things that I had building the show in the first place is, as a person, I'm drawn to the deeper ballads.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make for an exciting 45 minutes. You can't. So I had to like really work to find songs that I would be excited about singing, that the audience would also be excited about hearing.
Right.
And I feel good about it. I feel good about the set.
Dude, it was a really good show, man. It's gonna be. You know Josh Christina?
No.
Dude, he does a piano thing where he's insane. He's like Jerry Lee Lewis, all over the top. And it's a great, real hardcore Southern Mississippi rock type thing.
Oh, nice.
So when he's home, he lives in Memphis, and he does a blues thing in Memphis. But he's another guy's got 2 or 3 different shows. And you know the biggest thing, the most important, there's 2 things about this I think that's really cool for both of us. One is you've got enough catalog that you can build any type of show you want. And the next part is you can build any type of show you want. You know, the whole point is doing a show that you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to get boxed in doing a show where you're like, I hate this show. This is, you know what I mean? So you develop the show you want to do, and then you got we have the ability, which is why we're blessed, to be able to go, I don't want to go down that route. I want to go down this route.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're creating your own show. You're producing the whole thing.
Well, and you get to that point, too, where even just you start the cruise, you're like, you know what? I don't necessarily feel like this is a song that I want to sing. I'm going to swap it out for one that I usually do in a different show.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be just as good. The pace, you make the pacing work, and keeps it fresh for you, too. Nobody wants to be doing the same show for 20 years.
No. There are guys and acts I've seen over the years where I'll see them 8 years later, they're doing the same show. And you're like, oh, man, you got to update that.
Well,
stuff.
listen, if they're still enjoying doing the same show, good on them. But I think for me, I would
Well, I
need
would
to
lose
switch
my
it.
mind.
Yeah.
I know from a comic standpoint, if I don't do something new almost every show, I get a little crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like, I anticipate that as I start working more, the structure is going to remain the same, the basic skeleton will remain the same, but
Right.
every now and again, I'll change out a song.
Right. Plus, it depends on the crowds. Like
Yes.
right now, we talked about this a little bit. This crossing, it's a whole different world. These crossings, I forgot. I haven't done a crossing in a year. Actually.
Oh yeah.
So 14 days is, and a ton of these people were on the previous cruise, from what I understand.
For us, we've got people who this is their third cruise in a row now.
Yeah. So
Back to
some
back to
people,
back.
I had dinner with someone the other day who's been on the ship for almost 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of.
That's half of our contract.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's a lot. Like I'm in here 2 weeks, I want to go home. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, but the longer they're here, first of all, they've seen every type of show in the world, and generally, the longer they're on the ship they are, the older they are.
Mm.
So their vibe changes. You know what I mean? Your show can change if you hit that demographic, say 40s to 60, which would be they love the Billy Joel, they love all of that stuff. You know what I mean? They're really into that. The advantage you have also as music is anybody can like any type of music, so you just got to read the crowd.
Well, that's the thing that we're going to have to start figuring out, though. This is something that a lot of us talk about. It's like 10, 20 years, the clientele is going to be completely different.
Right.
So what are we going to be doing, like punk rock tributes? Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how that side of the industry changes when the people who grew up on Carole King, on Springsteen, on whoever, are now, the clientele grew up on Fall Out Boy and All American
Right.
Rejects. Like, how do we adjust as an industry?
Well, I think about that too. There's a couple parts of that. One, I'll get to one in a minute. But the other one, the advantage music has, is that there's a ridiculous amount of. Look, Carole King, for example. Let's take Carole King. There's a million songs she wrote that no one knows that she wrote.
Yeah.
There's original songs that were written years ago that you don't realize they were written years ago. And you guys did the Celine Dion song from Titanic.
Yeah, My Heart Will Go On.
My Heart Will Go On. I've never heard that version of that song. So with music, you can have a different arrangement for songs,
Mhm.
which can kind of update it to a younger crowd. I mean, how many times you hear a song come out popular and it gets huge or it gets heat, and you go, that song's 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, and even like this is one of my favorite examples. Springsteen made Jersey Girl famous.
Yeah.
Nobody knows it's a Tom Waits song.
Oh, I didn't know
Tom
that
Waits
either.
originally
All right.
recorded Jersey Girl, but it just didn't fly as much with him. And then Springsteen recorded it, and it's a hit.
That's funny. Well, Achy Breaky Heart was like that too.
Oh, really?
Well, Achy Breaky Heart, that put him on the map, but it was actually called Aching Breaking Heart by someone else. And it came out not long before he did it. And when he did it, of course, it blew up and made him huge.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because like with Carole King, even before I started doing the show, I didn't know she wrote Up on the Roof. I didn't know she wrote Chains. You know.
Yeah.
So that was cool. It's really cool to learn that, and that's really a big thing in the industry in general. I was looking up Jesse McCartney the other day. If you know that song "Beautiful Soul" from like 2000, I think it was 2000, 2001, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize he's still writing hits for people. He's not recording them as much now, but God, I wish I could remember what song I was looking at. It's over the last few years, it was a massive hit, and I had no idea he wrote it. Oh, Bleeding Love. He wrote Bleeding Love. No idea.
Look, the other thing I was going to get to about this crowds changing is that the crowds are changing. I noticed a lot on my end.
Yeah.
From stand up, because you got to. The older people now are teenagers from the 70s, so they're a little different crowd than like if you did cruises 15, 20 years ago and people grew up in the 50s. So they're much more uptight about certain material years ago. But I'm interested to see, especially live performing, I constantly worry about this. With the way the internet is, the way that the entertainment is, and the way that everything's becoming much more short attention span,
Mm-hmm.
that how many more people are going to be willing to go to and sit through live shows, and more importantly, how many more people are going to be willing to create live shows and do that venue?
Oh
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get famous on the internet now for being 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. But to do like your show is a whole show. It's a 45-minute show. Ernest show is a whole show. I'm worried about the future of live entertaining that I hope that maintains. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I think we might go through a phase where we struggle to maintain people's attention. But the pendulum swings, and I think it'll swing back.
Dude, it's interesting you say that. That's my theory. It's
Yeah.
the pendulum always swings.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much. I think what's going to happen is a lot of people will go the route where they won't put the work into a long show. And I noticed this with comics that they'll go on and do a 45-minute show, but it's not really a show. It's 45 minutes of material,
Mm-hmm.
which I think there's a difference. You know what I mean? And I think what's going to happen is the crowd start to ache for the show, like this is why the cruise ships I think are so cool, is that when people come into this theater, they're seeing a show.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming in to see a show.
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are on Mitch Hedberg, because like his thing was just like joke after joke after joke, but not
Yeah.
necessarily like a big arc.
Well, the difference between Mitch was that he was brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
If you're a brilliant writer, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then you can just leave and you're like, what was that? You know, and he was a genius. He was he was a genius. He had a terrible drug problem. He was great. I knew Mitch from work. We did a couple festivals together. But a guy like that, there's a difference. Well, Dave Chappelle, look at him too. He's a different level of
Yeah.
comedy now. He's almost like Prophet. He's like Prior Prophet type level. You know what I mean? Where Mitch Hedberg was, and Stephen Wright for that matter, if you remember who Stephen Wright was. See, Stephen Wright was really popular back in the 80s and the 90s, and now he mainly just writes and produces. Every once in a while, you'll see him involved in a Louis C.K. project because he's from the Boston area. But Stephen was, if you Google him, he was similar to Mitch, where it was all one-liners.
Oh, cool.
But it was very esoterical, and he was there was no performance to him at all. At least Mitch had this
He had
cool
the persona,
vibe.
yeah.
Just, oh no. But it's literally Stephen Wright would tell a joke like this and then move on.
Well, you might know if this is true then, since you knew him. The word on the street was he always wore the sunglasses, looked up because he didn't want to see the audience not laughing.
Right.
Is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I get it. It. There's nothing worse.
Right. And he reached a point where they were like, the heroin took over at some point, and then he never really paid attention to what he was doing on stage.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And the show started to fall apart, and it got bad.
I never got to see him live, but just love his albums.
He was brilliant, man. He was anything you Google now about him is. He was the first guy to get a major television, or the biggest television deal at the time.
Oh, damn.
Was him. It was $250,000 from Fox.
Wow.
And he took the money and he bought a van and he went on the road. And it drove Fox crazy because they couldn't get him in town to develop a show. And the stuff that they developed, they couldn't go anywhere with it. But he loved doing the show, the jokes, the stand-up.
It's funny though, because like when he died, I wasn't sure if it was real because what was it, March 30th, March 31st? I'm like, this is an April Fool's joke.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was either March 31st or March 30th. So I was like, this is some weird Andy Kaufman-esque kind of April Fool's thing. But yeah,
I'm dead.
It was weird. It was a weird time.
Yeah, he was a brilliant writer, so he could get away with doing whatever.
The 30-second clips, right?
Yeah, and like a lot of people don't have patience to build a 45-minute show anymore. So much stuff is geared toward this short attention span. You know what I mean? So this is why I fell in love with all of the entertainment on cruise ships, was to watch real shows. Was to watch a whole, to entertain a room full of people for an hour. It takes a lot of talent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I love about Celebrity is the use of the full band too for us.
That's awesome.
It's a game changer.
It is a game changer.
We've done 2 tracks before, and that's a fine show too. But you have a song like Jazzman in our show where the entire band, every member gets a solo. It's a completely different experience.
Right.
As opposed to just me with tracks on a keyboard.
Right.
It's different.
Plus, the room is so much more alive when you have musicians really pouring their heart into an instrument.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we're lucky on this ship because these musicians really... I mean, you watch... Andre's an incredible music director. You watch Tom, the guitarist, like really digging in. You got Jay over there, like with his bass.
Yeah.
They're a good group.
These musicians on cruise ships, like guys like those, they're completely underrated, I think.
Oh,
I don't know if underrated is the right word. Maybe not noticed or whatever, but you don't realize how good they have to be.
Yeah.
They got to be able to do your show, Adam's show, Tabitha's show, Ernest, all these shows. And sometimes they got to learn a show in a couple of days.
If that, sometimes it's the day. They have 45 minutes to an hour, and then they have to play the show.
They walk in with here's sheet music. Let's go one run through, bam, and then do it live twice.
Yeah.
It blows me away how great they are.
It's amazing. Honestly, I couldn't do it. The stress alone would kill me.
Right.
But no, they're great. And we're very lucky on this ship that there aren't weak links.
Right. Well, you know what? If there's ever a weak link, I've noticed that they just don't last long. They have to weed them out. They don't have a choice because it's a disadvantage to the rest of the musicians.
Yeah.
You, the crowd, the cruise director, everybody's life is much more difficult if there's one or two bad weak links.
And it's already such a hard gig to get.
Yeah.
And like for the horns in particular, they have to tune to each other. Like it's tough.
Yeah, and plus you got to think about the work that puts into it. When I walked in and set this up back there, somebody was rehearsing, working, and playing, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And talking about air distribution, dude. If you're doing horns, I don't know how those guys do that.
Me neither.
That blows me away.
But good on them.
Yeah.
I'll stick to piano where I don't have to worry.
Dude, you were great on the piano.
Thank you.
That was really good. Do you play by ear or did you?
No, I started taking lessons around the same time that I started acting classes, so I've been playing for about 30 years now.
Okay.
But yeah, I had a great piano teacher who I'm very lucky because his philosophy was, I'm going to teach you the classical stuff because you have to learn the technique.
Right.
But I also know that you have to love this, so I'm going to let you pick a song as well. So every week I'd be learning something that he assigned and something that I picked.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a great approach.
It was cool. But yeah, he taught me to read, and it was great.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of those guys who can play by ear. Because, like, I can figure it out.
Yeah.
But for me, the sheet music is kind of the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to get away from that.
Dude, I'm totally amazed by anyone that can play by ear.
Yeah. Oh,
me
too.
I know a lot of guys that's how they learned, and they learned a bunch of multiple instruments and stuff.
Well, Adam was saying that, right? Adam learned all of those instruments just by feeling it out.
Yeah.
Good for him. I mean, that's a special kind of talent.
Yeah, because I'm horribly tone deaf, and if I learned whatever I played wouldn't be embarrassingly bad.
Yeah. Oh,
it wouldn't be good.
Well, now I got to bring you up for my next show. See what happens. Just have a good time.
Those will be my best laughs.
Yeah. Oh, God. That'll be a good time. No, one of the things that I want to work on actually is soloing. Because I generally, if there's an opportunity to solo, I'll just pass it on to somebody else.
Right.
Which is fun.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why there were so many saxophone solos. Well, also a saxophone solo is fun in something like Great Balls of Fire and all that.
Right.
But it's funny though, because like Jerry Lee Lewis, great pianist, but you look at his Great Balls of Fire solo and he's just banging on the piano.
Yeah.
And so that's what I tried to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught it, but I almost closed the piano lid on my hands.
Dude, I noticed that. You did a couple of moves at the piano. I thought you were going to break your back.
Oh, yeah,
There's a couple of weird. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, how many more years of this do I have before I have to find something else to do?
Yeah, you got to start. You're 8, dude. Look, I'm going to be 60 in a couple of weeks, and I always thought about. I always think of it's not that big for me, but I used to do a joke years ago when I started out. This is horrible. I was in my 20s, but it was when Mike Tyson was still fighting, and I go. The joke is he had just beaten someone in like 40 seconds. I remember because I paid for the fight and went to get a slice of pizza, came back and it was over. I was like, what the? So I did a joke about it. Can you imagine being that guy? And ding ding, and I stepped forward. I'm going to beat you, and then I pretend like I get punched, but I would throw myself backwards in the stage. And just fall. Like I mean, literally, just like prop fall.
Okay.
And just lay there and just slam my full body on the stage. And I did, even in my 20s, I did it a couple times. And I remember doing it the second time thinking, these are jokes I can't be doing 30 years from now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of physical stuff that, and I guess for you, of course, for you, it's got to be, you got to write stuff around what you physically are able to do.
Yeah.
I mean?
But, there's some of like, Begin's a perfect example. I was like, how do I make this song fun? For the 3 minutes 15, whatever it is, because there's already so much of me just standing and singing or walking and singing. So that's when I started trying to learn some mic stand tricks.
Dude, that was great.
Thanks,
dude. There's a good balance of everything on that show. You don't do a lot of just standing around and singing. You know what I mean? And you work the crowd just enough. You're in and out. You know what I mean?
I'm glad. I try. It's weird because especially because I've only done it 4 times. Like in the moment, I'm very present, but at the end of it, it's almost like it never happened and I blacked out.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So it's good to hear that because I can't necessarily recap for myself what happened.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is, I always say that there's a certain degree of entertainment that you have to not care what they think, but then you have to care what they think. You know what I mean?
It's like that with auditioning. My most successful auditions were when I didn't care.
Right.
And then I walk, and then of course you finish the audition, and you're like, wait, no, I do care though.
Yeah, right. Well, the best, you ever see, there's a great video of Bryan Cranston on YouTube. And he talked when he won the Emmy, the first Emmy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the clip where he's talking about your job, when you go in the room and the job and the whole audition room thing, which changed my audition process forever.
Yeah, I actually could use to give that another listen or 4 more listens, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's true. That's really the way that you have to approach it.
Yeah, the point is you can't think about booking the gig.
Because there's so many factors outside of your control.
Yeah, so what's real is what's in your hand, is the paper. So the script, the moment, the present. So you're in that moment, and then you present your moment, and you go, okay, that's my package, and you leave, and that's it. End of story.
Well, and they always say, and it's hard to believe this when you're the actor, but they always say that the team wants you to be the one that walks in the room and gets the job. Like, they want it to be you.
Sure.
They're not sitting there being like, oh, this guy, I don't like his face. You know, they want you to be the answer.
Right. Well, those decisions are made farther down the line when you get to network or the top execs, because then they'll go. I've known guys that haven't gotten a job because they didn't like their laugh.
Right.
I've heard this. They go, I can't work with this guy for 6 months and go crazy. But then other ones, like I used to do with I auditioned for Clint Eastwood 1 million times, like 12 times. I did Jersey Boys. I did all these different auditions, and it was all different parts. Cobb. Usually when I would read for, and not him specifically, but his office. But when you would read from him, you get I'd get 8 or 10 parts, and they go, okay, I want you. Now you're the cop. Now you're this. You're the dad. I read for the sniper's dad in Sniper, the dinner thing. And my acting teacher used to tell me this all the time. It drove me crazy early on. I would get mad for not booking. And this is more so true with Clint Eastwood's office. If a casting director calls you in over and over again, then they know you could book. They know you can do it. They're not going to waste time with someone that you know, not bringing anyone up. Maybe. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you get called by the same, like this cast director calls me and I never book, and my acting teacher's like, no, that's good. That means she thinks you can book. Yeah. I mean, she's not going to call in some guy that can't book. And it was an even bigger compliment with Clint, because he's a notorious one-shot guy. So you've got to go. You got to be really good. I mean, you got to be off script. You got to be able to do it in one take. So every time I went to his office, I felt proud. I was like, this is great. This is a huge compliment. I never booked with him. I never booked anything. But I went into his bungalow 1 million times and read over and over again. And with him, it was the biggest compliment to me, because it's like, he does one take, man. He doesn't mess around. He's like, one take, out, done. You know, he hates to do a second take. He'll be like, I don't want to do a second take.
I had no idea.
Yeah, he's really big. He's really big on that. So when I got called in more and more, that's why you have to let all the bullshit go, and you're in the room, and you're like, okay, I'm the bartender, and you're whatever, and you're like, oh, now I'm the teacher, and you know what I mean? You just embrace that moment.
Well, it's this weird thing, because like, you have to go in not feeling like you need the job, right? But also you need the job. Like, we all need to work.
Yeah. You know? Well, that's the whole, you have to care but not care. Yeah. Like, and I had a panic attack in an audition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was during my divorce. It was not a good time for me. But it was a big room full of producers and network and everything. And I snapped. I just cracked, and I can't do this.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they called me. That casting director was Vilko Meyer. They do tons of TV, tons of stuff. But they called me in 2 weeks later for something.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, thank you so much for calling me. And they were so cool, dude. They were like, hey man, we get it. It's actors. Real life happens. Shit tears you down sometimes. Yeah. Don't even worry about it.
Well, one of the things that I had to learn the hard way was, and this is pretty recent, but was, you have to know when you're not going to be able to put your best foot forward. Prime example, I had an audition that I really wanted to go to, and I was so sick, to the extent that it was for a production of Jersey Boys. This was maybe a year and a half ago. I was so sick that I was shaking while walking to the audition. It was the worst audition I've ever had in my life, because like I was in no place to actually be in that room. Right. But I didn't want to give up the audition. Sure. I did more harm to myself going than I would have by canceling.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
But it's hard, because again, you want the job, you need the work, you want to be able to do it. Yeah. And there is this pride element too. Like earlier in this cruise, or in this contract we've been on for about 3.5 months, I got sick. We had to postpone the show, and for me, like, my pride was really irksome. Like, I should still be able to do my job, but if I can't sing, I can't sing.
Right. Well, you understand your body. And I was going to mention this a little bit earlier. Your body is for you, for me, but more so for you, especially you. Your body is a tool. It's a physical tool and instrument. So if it's not prepared the right way, then you can't perform.
Yeah.
The vocal thing is such a big deal to me. Like when I was listening to Ernest did Tom Jones, and you start to realize when you listen to some singers how much their voice is an instrument. And Tom Jones's songs hit me when I was watching the show. It's like his voice is such an instrument in those songs. It's a powerful whoa, whoa, whoa. You know what I mean? It's a part of the music. So if you can't hit those notes and you can't do that, you got to know your body well enough to go, I can't do this. I physically can't do it.
Yes.
And then you accept it. I think as a professional, you understand it and you accept it. And a good producer and agent would get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They would understand that.
Well, and like let's be honest, we're human. Like you're not always going to be 100%.
You're not invincible.
But there are things that you can do to mitigate, like to a certain extent. Yeah, 90%, 80%. Like you could do some variations on melodies. There are ways to get through it. But you do have to be able to recognize that moment where you're like, nope, we've crossed that line, and I just can't.
I'm physically unable to perform this. Yeah.
Which sucks. It's an ego hit. It's always an ego hit, no matter what.
Yeah, it is an ego hit. But it's funny. Again, it's that same thing. I guess all of entertainment is you got to care, but then not care.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to care enough that you're mad that it didn't work, but then you got to care enough also to go, I can't give you what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's this weird thing because, like, I don't know about you, but I at this point I have so much of my sense of self-worth attached to what I do because what I do is who I am.
Right.
You know. So it is this weird thing. Yeah, you said it. Like you have to care, but not care. Find a way that it doesn't impact how you feel about yourself.
Right. Well, it is, and also because so much of our lives is, I call it fill in the calendar. Like you said, you hope to get this going. You hope to get this. We're constantly hoping, and I mean we're putting the work in, but then there's so many forces outside of what we do.
Yeah.
That are in charge of what we do. It seems like you're constantly throwing shit up against a wall and hoping for it to catch, you know what I mean, or connect. You know what I mean? It seems like our daily battle is trying to get work on some level.
Oh yeah. And like especially when you're first starting out, we were talking about this yesterday. It's so hard to break in the first place, like get them to give you that shot.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm lucky that and grateful that Ernest let me do my solo show, even though I'm here with a trio. Because it's almost like giving me a shot to get more footage and really be put together
it was great,
package.
Dude. Yeah, you should get a ton of work out of that, man.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope you do.
It's just a matter of getting them to finally be like, you know what, okay, we'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and then once you get in the foot, because once you get your foot in the door with these lines, once you show that you're a good professional, now all the other things fall into place. He's dependable. He's responsible. We know he'll be here. He knows the drill. You know what I mean? He's a team player. Supportive is a big thing on these lines. Like one of the things I really love about Celebrity, especially, is how supportive all the entertainers are for everyone else.
Yeah.
You know
is that not usual? I've only done Celebrity in Norwegian.
It depends. I've been on some ships where they're not. And I'm surprised. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, why wouldn't you come out and support the other shows? Especially like last night's show, I was ready to go see. I didn't know how many people were going to show up for that. You know what I mean?
There's usually I'd be curious with this one. It is
because the crossing. It's 14 days. It's late at night. It's
everybody's exhausted.
Show. Yeah. So I don't know. The advantage they have, of course, is there's nothing going on the next day. So maybe they could show up.
I was bummed because I wanted to see it one more time before we left. I skipped last week because I knew I was coming this cruise. It made me really sad because I like Illyria a lot.
Yeah.
It's super weird and I love it.
Yeah. Well, I was like that with Jersey Boys. Not this last time, but the time before because it was I knew the cast and I go, well, I'll skip it tonight, but I'll go tomorrow. But then somebody got sick. I was like,
yeah,
and it was done, so I couldn't see it again.
You never know. I should have anticipated that we were going to be on a crossing. That was my bad. The thing with Illyria was it was always, except for I think one cruise, it was always after our shows.
Yeah,
and so I had an element of just like you got to rush to I don't eat before a show and between shows because I got to keep myself.
Man, I don't know how you would eat before your show.
It's hard because
even for my show, I just stand around and talk.
Yeah, and it's like you feel it, right? You feel like you struggle to produce the sound and like and so sluggish. Like if I went to Illyria after shows, I'd have to run up to the buffet, throw pizza down my throat, and then run back downstairs.
Which is even worse because now you're throwing out pizza, by the way, which is there's nothing healthy up there after. I mean, you can find it, but still, it's not like dinner or lunch where you can get a healthy meal.
Yeah, and so it was always just like I wanted to see Illyria more. But being right after our shows, it was hard. In hindsight, I should have anticipated Rocky Seas.
Yeah, I've learned see the show first and then pass the next, then just be free the following.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, luckily, I've gotten to see them do it a couple times.
Of course,
but
Right.
Yeah, and I really like this cast. They're really good people.
They were great.
And they're extremely talented.
Dude, they're so young.
I know.
I'm so blown away by these. Every time I talk to someone, they're younger than my daughters. I'm like, holy crap.
Right. I was even one of the cast members that I've been talking to a lot over the last week or so. We've somehow ended up in the buffet every single meal at the same time. We're on the same schedule.
Yeah.
And then she told me yesterday, I think, that she's like 23, 24, something like that. And my mind was blown. I was like, not that I believe it, but they're just so young. And I forget sometimes. You forget.
Yeah, you know what, though? I'm also kind of, it's great for them, though. You know what I mean? I'm always like, they're living their best life, bro. You know what I mean? I was on the road at 22, 23. But I was living the road out of my car, driving around, you know what I mean, doing all that. You look at these kids at 22, 23 on a cruise ship, doing shows every week and rehearsing. Come on, how cool is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
great.
It's
amazing. It's a great life experience for them.
Whether they continue with it or not, you know what I mean? This is a great point. They can go forward in the cruise line or go on to cast or go on to Broadway or go on to TV. You know what I mean? It's just such a great building ground for them.
Yeah. And what I really appreciate about this group, and I think I've seen that across the fleet, is the maturity level. Like they might be young, but they carry themselves well, and they care about their jobs, which is really important. Like and this is for all of us, right? Where there is the element of living on a ship and seeing all these gorgeous ports, but we're still here to work,
right?
And it's great that we've got a group of people that really cares.
And they're smart. It seems like they're really, because I do, early on I was a bit of a train wreck for a long time. Because also I was a comic, entertainment on the road. There's a certain level in your head that goes, I work in entertainment. It's a party show, you know. Especially for me, it was always do a show, party, drink. But these guys, it's amazing. You're right. How mature they have it together, and they're ready to go. Yeah, it's impressive.
And they've got a 10:15 pop up show the dancers up on the pool deck tonight. Ray. That's how they launched the full moon party. But so they've got those little pop up acts too. So they're always sort of doing something. Yeah.
I'll have to go check that out. Well, the Motown show was great the other day.
Yeah,
I'd never seen that before.
I like that set. I really like that set.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And this is actually the first time I've seen it on a ship where the band plays with it.
Oh, right.
Which was cool.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, it was really good. It was good.
I dig it.
Well, let's wrap this up. Yeah, we're at almost, where are we at? Yeah, almost an hour.
Yeah, I could talk forever. So.
I know, I could talk forever too, but, Terrence is coming in here and he needs his time.
That's right.
Dude, again, your show was dynamite.
Thank you, and thanks for coming out on a what was that, Saturday afternoon.
I'm absolutely floored. That's the fourth time you did that show. It's really fantastic.
And there was some new stuff in there today. Like I said, the all the mic stand stuff was
that was great. You nailed it. You never dropped it once.
I was terrified I was going to hit myself in the face.
I thought you were going to hit yourself in the nuts. Or you moved around like, oh, that's going to hurt. I don't know if that was before or after the splits.
That was before.
Okay, because then I saw the splits and I'm like, all right, this guy can obviously do anything.
Well, like I said, that's how I sing Frankie Valli.
Yeah, it was, dude, in the jeans, too. I thought you were going to rip those pants.
Oh, yeah. I got stretchy ones just for that.
Dude, that's such a smart move. That's clever. Dude, right to camera. Plug anything you want to plug.
So, you can check me out Instagram, Evan Jay Newman Music. It's Evan Evan Jay Newman Music. That's on Instagram. I've got a website, evanjaynewman.net, because .com was stolen from me. So evanjaynewman.net.
That's great. All right, man. Dude, Evan, I thank you for doing this.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Great. Thanks.
You're still watching? That's amazing. Nobody does that. Nobody, but you did. That means you want more. Pick one of these clips. Go for it. I dare you. Hey, also follow one of those social media thingies.